is up, YouTube? So in this video, I'm going to be breaking down my DFS strategies to win on books like PrizePicks and Underdog Fantasy. So I have made over $280,000 in tracked verified profit on these fantasy sports apps, these fixed payout DFS apps, PrizePicks. It works a little differently from a traditional sports book like FanDuel. So first things first, let's go through all the different DFS apps that I use and have available in Virginia where I'm living. I have PrizePicks, Underdog Fantasy, BetterPicks, Owner's Box, DraftKings Pick 6, and Dabble. There were a couple others, No House Advantage and Jock Market, that actually ended up going out of business. So I used those while they were in business, but unfortunately they were profitable books. They went out of business. But the point of this video is to just explain the basics. This is how sharps, this is how, pro bettors think when they're using these DFS apps and the strategies they're using to actually make money consistently. So the first thing is, if you look at PrizePicks, you'll notice there's no odds on the site. Right? There's no numbers. It's a very simple website. You just select players, and basically any 3 picks you select, if you want to play a 3-pick entry, any 3 picks you select, you are going to get a 6x payout. So you're betting 100 to win 600, 500 in profit. So a PrizePicks 3-man is essentially just like a 3-pick parlay at plus 500 odds. So I'll give you an example of a sharp pick that I locked in. It was DeAndre Swift to not score a touchdown. I took his under. And you may be thinking, why? Like, what's the math behind it? And essentially on PrizePicks, if I take him to score or to not score, I'm going to get the exact same payout, a 6x payout on my 3-pick entry. But if you look at all the major sports books, for example, Novig is a really smart book. They had his under around minus 180, so the under was a big favorite. The over was around plus 135. The under was around minus 180. So Novig is a really smart or sharp book. It's a data point telling us, hey, DeAndre Swift is a lot more likely to go under. Now, we don't just have to look at Novig. There's a bunch of other books and data points in the market. So FanDuel, for example, they only have a one-way market. They only let you bet on a lot of these sports books. You can only take a player to score a touchdown. You can't bet on them to not score a touchdown. So that's called a one-way market. But on FanDuel, they have DeAndre Swift touchdown at plus 135. That's underdog odds. So even though FanDuel's not giving us a two-way market, because they have his over priced at plus 135, we know for a fact, right, that is under. According to FanDuel, this $40 billion sports book, we know that FanDuel thinks he's a lot more likely to go under. So we're using the data from these multi-billion-dollar sports books to essentially exploit edges and find profitable picks on PrizePicks. So this play I found on the OddsJam crossed market plus EV tool. It's called Sharp Money, and that's the main tool I actually use to beat PrizePicks and where I find the majority of my picks. So the second thing that's really important is all of these DFS apps have different payouts. So for example, on PrizePicks, a 5-pick entry, a 5-pick flex play has a different payout than an underdog 5-pick flex play. So on all of these different DFS platforms, it's important to know which type of slip is mathematically optimal, and it really affects things long term. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a brief little screen share. I'm not trying to get too nerdy and go too deep into the math, but I just want to kind of show you exactly how important it is and why it really matters the type of slip that you're actually betting on PrizePicks. You do not want to be playing 2-pick entries. A lot of people play 2-pick entries because they're easier to win, but you're only getting a 3x payout. So when you're betting on 2-mans, you get the feeling of winning more often, right? You get the feeling of, oh, I'm hitting more consistently. But because the payout is only plus 200, you're betting 100 to profit 200, get back 300 total in payout, plus 200 odds. It's actually 2-mans. It's nearly impossible to make money on them unless you're just playing 2-mans with promos. So let's go through the math briefly before I get into other key points and strategies to make money on these DFS apps. So here you can see PrizePicks, and as you can see, there's no odds, there's no numbers, and basically everything on PrizePicks, here you can see my little math spreadsheet, everything on PrizePicks boils down to what percentage of your picks can you win. Again, PrizePicks is giving you the same payout if you take a player's over or under. So for a 2-pick entry, I get a 3x payout. I take, Stevenson to go over or under, I'm still going to get a 3x payout. So everything boils down to what percentage of your picks can you win. So let's say you can win your picks at a pretty good rate. PrizePicks is setting these lines to be roughly 50-50. But let's say you can hit your individual picks like Gabriel over under 6.5 rushing yards 55% of the time. Well, for 2-pick power plays, you're still going to lose money because the break-even win rate is 57.74%. So if you're winning your picks 55% of the time playing 2-mans, you're going to have a negative 10% ROI. This is literally the math, literally the numbers. This is a fact, right? However, if you're playing 6-pick flex plays and you're hitting your picks 55% of the time, and you can change these numbers on the spreadsheet, I'll include it in the description. If you're hitting your picks 55% of the time, you are going to have an ROI for a 6-pick flex play. You just pair 6 picks, winning 55% of the time. You're going to have an ROI of 7.5%. So it really matters what type of slip you go with. And you can basically convert PrizePicks odds in their payouts into implied odds. So I'll give you an example, is if I look at FanDuel, right, they're charging me -112 juice, right? So if I zoom in a bit, if I want to take Herbert's over or under, I'm getting -112. These books, that's the juice. They're charging a 24-cent spread. So if you're betting, assume, PrizePicks had the exact same line, 255 half, PrizePicks was slightly different. Assume you're playing a 2-pick entry, you're getting -137 odds. So you are getting 3 times worse odds than FanDuel, right, on these player prop lines if you are playing 2-pick entries. And for Underdog, I also have a math spreadsheet. You can see, 6-pick flex plays are mathematically optimal, and you're getting -116 implied odds. So long story short, it really matters, and I definitely recommend take some time, play around with this spreadsheet, really internalize how PrizePicks is working, because this may be confusing, like why is a 2-pick entry -137? And again, on PrizePicks, you're getting a 3x payout. So you are betting 100, right, to win 300, 200 in profit. So a 2-pick entry on PrizePicks is basically just plus 200 odds. So you're getting plus 200 odds. So if you go to a parlay calculator, which OddsJam has once I pull one up, right, if you are betting a parlay on FanDuel where each leg is -137 and you're playing a 2-pick parlay, you're getting a 3x payout or plus 200 odds, right? This says plus 199.26, but you get the point. There's some rounding error. So PrizePicks is basically giving you -137 odds for any pick in a 2-man. 2-mans are horrible. You're getting double the juice of 5-pick entries, as you can kind of see in this spreadsheet. Sometimes, again, I will run 3-pick power plays if there's 3 really good picks and I just want to lock them in before the odds change. So my next little pro tip is all of these DFS apps have their own little quirks that are super exploitable. So for example, Dabble is one of the fixed payout fantasy books I use. Unfortunately, I'm limited. You can see right here, they give me like $10 a slip at this point, which is BS, but whatever, kind of is what it is. I had a good run on Dabble, but you'll notice my profit graph goes flat because I made like 30K in a month because it's extremely exploitable. And then they just decided to essentially cut me off with $10 betting limits. But long story short, this app, basically they have these shields, right? So you can see 2 shields right here and they say 0.7x. So what Dabble is supposed to do is these are supposed to be easy wins. They're much more likely to hit. Sometimes these shields are hitting 70%, 75% of the time. They're supposed to add a payout shift. They're not supposed to give you the same payout if you start including shields in your slip. but sometimes they literally forget to, which is absolutely insane. So you can see a play right here on Mika, right? I'm still getting a 6x payout. On Dabble, you know, a regular 3-pick entry, that's the optimal slip type, 3-pick or 5-pick entries. For a regular 3-man on Dabble, 3 regular squares, they give you a 6x payout. Here I included Mika, who was a 0.7x shield, and there's no payout shift. I'm still getting a 6x payout, which is insane. So it's the same thing here. If you look at this other slip with Judkins, where I'm on Judkins, you know, under 69.5 rushing yards, I included a shield, no payout shift. I'm still getting a 6x payout. So why did I decide to take Judkins under? So this was a play from the OddsJam Sharp Money tool, crossed market tool. So on Dabble, I ran a 3-man because that's the optimal slip type, and it's minus 122 implied odds. So anything similar to how PrizePicks was minus 119, you know, depending on the slip you're going with, 5 and 6-pick flex plays was minus 119. On Dabble, for 3-mans, it's minus 122. So basically, you take Judkins over, under, you're getting the same payout. You should assume you're getting minus 122 odds. And you can see on Novig is an extremely smart or sharp book. They have Judkins over listed at plus 123 with a ton of liquidity, $2,000. So if a trading firm is offering his over at plus 123, his over 69.5, that means they want to bet the under 69.5 at minus 123, right? The opposite outcome. If someone's offering the over at plus 123, they want the under at minus 123 for like thousands of dollars. So these peer-to-peer betting sites are very sharp. So if Judkins is plus 123 to go over, that's where he's being offered. We know he's an underdog to go over, and the under is the favored, the more likely outcome in the sharp pick we want to be on in our Dabble slip. So another thing you can do on these fixed payout DFS apps is correlation. Okay, so again, PrizePicks, sometimes they'll add in payout shifts if you correlate too much, so I should mention that. But on PrizePicks, if you take a player's over or under, you're getting the same payout. So what you can do is you can stack a quarterback and their main wide receiver to both go over or both go under. So for example, in this PrizePicks slip, I took McCall's under, I took Concepcion, his main receiver, under, and you can see Concepcion, his receiving yards line is like a third, 33% of McCall's line. He's the main target. So if McCall goes under and that pick wins, then our second pick, Concepcion under, is a lot more likely to hit as well, right? If McCall throws for 200 yards and he cashes his under, his main receiver, right, who's a third of his passing line, is much more likely to go under as well. So positive correlation is super effective on PrizePicks, some of these other DFS apps. The only thing you have to be careful about is payout shifts. I mean, some of these DFS apps, because they have fixed payouts, they literally block, you know, the ability to play a wide receivers over with their quarterbacks over. But I've made a ton of videos about PrizePicks, Dabble, all these different books, the optimal slip type. So what I kind of wanted to do to end this video, and if you have any questions, drop them below. Also, let me know other video ideas. I love making sports betting content. I love helping people learn how to beat the books. So if you have any questions, other video ideas, comment them below. But I'm gonna run you through a brief example of how I use OddsJam to find the sharpest picks on these different DFS apps to kind of conclude the video. Hopefully you find it helpful to put some examples and this theory into practice. So let's get into it. So what I'm gonna do in this video is just take you through kind of how I use, you know, OddsJam and math to create profitable Dabble slips. So again, I could do other books, Dabble, PrizePicks, whatever. For the sake of example, let's just do Dabble. Typically what I do is I just filter all of the books I want to look at, PrizePicks, Better, all of them in. I see which one has the best value. But for the sake of example, I have Dabble up on my phone. Let's just run a Dabble slip. So I typically start on the crossed market EV tool, Sharp Money. Crossed markets, in my opinion, it's not even really an opinion, these are the highest confidence bets. Dabble has tens of thousands of lines up. You want to take the crossed money plays first because you have very high confidence in your edge. Novig is an extremely sharp book. They have Judkins over at plus 123. if they're offering the over at plus 123, that means these trading firms setting lines or want to bet for thousands of dollars, like high liquidity means higher confidence in your edge. They want to bet his under at minus 123, and we're essentially getting minus 122 on Dabble in a 3-pick entry. So I typically start here. So Judkins, Murray, those are examples of plays I could take. And then oftentimes I'll look for line discrepancies. So let's see here if any of these work. Again, sometimes it really is important to move quick because the best plays get bumped quickly. But like, check out this play. Trinidad Chambliss, college football play. His line is 37.5. You know, they're starting to post college football lines. All these books set their own unique lines. FanDuel, BetMGM, all the other books have his line lower, right? FanDuel's a $40 billion company. Even if you don't bet on it personally, you want to put some weight into their odds. So maybe I take this play, another play, and then I have a few different options. I could just take that Jamal Murray play that was across market. And is it still available, or did they bump it? They may have bumped it. So we can try to find a shield where there is no payout shift. So like, let's see this here. Nah. So you can see how quickly they moved it. So if I add in one of these shields, I oftentimes try to play around. Usually the 0.7x ones are better. But again, they may add a payout shift. That's kind of the problem. So let's refresh this. And let's see if this other college football pick is available. So this was Lacey, under 72 half rushing. So here we have it. And it looks like they're already bumping it. Man, so usually they're not this quick. I can't even lie, but let's see here what we can do about this. So let's go back here and let's just see here. Yeah, so the Murray play got removed. Now you can see it's gone. So sometimes what I do, I would say this is my last option. I prefer like crossed market plays, is I'll look at the OddsJam positive EV tool. So basically what this does is just compares the lines, you know, on Dabble directly to sportsbooks. So for example, for Desmond Bain, this is a play from the OddsJam positive EV tool. Here we would have 3 picks, but you can see now they're adding in a payout shift when I include my shield. But Desmond Bain, all of these sports books, Novig's a really smart book. You have FanDuel, a $40 billion company. They have Bain's over heavily favored. So they're data points, right? Telling you, hey, he's a lot more likely to go over as opposed to under. So again, you kind of need to play around with this. And here you can see, for some reason, it's super weird, right? This play, they're not adding in a payout shift. Now I'm getting 6x. The other one, I was getting 5.7x. So I can lock it in. Again, they're giving me a very low betting limit. But we have 3 sharp picks. We have a shield. This is essentially the shield glitch. That's what I like to call it. Shields are like goblins on PrizePicks. I mean, if you start to include these goblins, right? If you start to include these goblins, they're supposed to be the easier wins. PrizePicks massively reduces your payout from 6x to 2.4x, right? They usually give you a 6x payout on 3-mans, and now they're giving you 2.4x. Dabble is just like forgetting to do it sometimes. It's absolutely insane. So we got in a super good play there. So that's basically how I use OddsJam to maximize my profits on these fixed payout DFS apps. If you have any questions, comment them below. And again, thank you so much for your time, guys.